Can you tell us, first of all, how is your son doing?
Cliff is doing wonderfully well. I am so proud of him, how hard he's worked to get where he is. Um, I actually took a look at the interview that we did 5 years ago before leaving home this morning, and the changes have been just night and day. Um, he is now, I talked to you in the earlier interview about a Section 23 class, which happened. But he is now in a mainstream high school regular classroom doing grade level work, regular curriculum. They make a few accommodations for him in terms of extra time to take tests and so forth. But he's he's going to come out of high school with a high school diploma, not one of the certificate of completion things. He's we're actually scoping out post-secondary education. He has a job. He's got a girlfriend. He's been living back at home now for nearly 2 years, and um, there are awkward days, but the aggression issues, it's just nothing like what the troubles that we were having. It's something that I've heard a lot of parents say, in fact, that after the changes are done, kids on the spectrum kind of come out the other end better self-regulated than they were before. And it's definitely true. I think it's got a lot to do just with the changes, right? Our kids don't deal with transitions well, and it's the biggest transition of your life. It comes from inside. You've no control over it whatsoever. It's hard to understand. It's no wonder that some of them, many of them, completely freak out. But once it's done, um, things have turned an awful lot better.
That is such wonderful news, Bruce. I'm interested that so much has happened in those 5 years. What would you say that you are most proud of? Because your son would not have made all of these advancements and these steps forward were it not for you and your wife and your efforts.
What am I most proud of? Um, that it didn't go completely thermonuclear. Um, there were some serious problems after I spoke with you. Um, Cliff is reluctant about me going into any detail, but suffice to say, he did have some legal troubles, which fortunately have passed. But we kept him on the rails through that. He's been off to residential care a couple of times when it just simply became too much. He's a big boy, by the way. He has grown a lot. He is 6'2" right now, and he's 2 months past his 18th birthday. He's still got a lot of growing in him. He's going to end up around 6'3" or 6'4", and I stand 5'9", so that has been well. We've managed our way through that too. Um, it's so hard to pick one thing because he's made progress on so many fronts. The pharmaceutical component, I noticed that I had talked to you about that. We got him through the meds transition. He is now on only one prescription at a very modest dose, as opposed to the 4 or I think 5 that he was at the peak of things. And that's I've learned from a chap that I spoke to at CAMH, who has told me that that's true for a lot of people who go through residential care. That they come out on far fewer medications than they go in with, but it's because just one thing sort of gets stacked on the other. It doesn't get designed; it just gets built. Oh, that isn't working well. We'll add this, without sort of stepping back and saying, okay, if we were going to start over from ground zero, what would we do? And that's what happened with Cliffy. They took him off everything, and he's now on exactly one medication, and it's a modest amount. He's comfortable with it. It's not. It doesn't have the weight gain. It doesn't make him sleepy. But it's also helping him through the anxiety. So there's so many things.
Wow.
That's a pretty big update now, isn't it?
Let me ask you this. Understanding that every child is different, every family situation is different, what are the 3 tips that you would give to parents who have just been told that their child is diagnosed with autism, knowing everything that you know now and looking back on your own situation? What would be your 3 tips for them?
Stay calm. There is a grieving process, because we're all told that you're going to take your boy fishing, your daughter's going to be a ballet dancer. We have all of these preconceptions about what parenthood is going to be like. Even in the neurotypical or non-autistic world, it's not what you expect. We have these idealized visions of it, and it doesn't turn out that way. Autism just happens to be a little bit further off the beaten path. But I have a friend who is on the autistic spectrum, and she says, it's not a funeral. It's just a bigger twist in the road than maybe the one you were expecting. It's really important to keep that in mind. It's easy to lose sight of it sometimes, but it's okay. It's not a funeral. I think the second one is you can do this. I talk to parents who think that it's just going to be beyond them, because they hear stories of how difficult some parts of it can be. I told stories about how difficult it was for us the last time we spoke. Mm-hmm. But if you love your kid and you're committed to caring for them and helping them in every way that you can, they will make progress. They may not do it in exactly the same way at the same speed, but you can do this. And I think that maybe I should have done this in the other order. It's about your kid, and it's just as hard for them as it is for you. I was just at a conference in Ottawa, and the closing session was a panel of 5 young adults on the autism spectrum, and they talked about their experiences in a world that just isn't built for them. Everything about it, interacting with other people, other people's expectations of them, judgment, things that don't have to do with other people, sensory overload. But the message that I took away from it was, it's really hard for them too. And yeah, there's my answer to what I'm most proud of about the last 5 years. We've become better partners. We're better at understanding one another, and we're better at helping each other through the rough patches, because we've built a better relationship. That's exactly what I'm most proud of.
Can you tell me in closing, Bruce, how important is it for parents who find themselves in a similar situation to have an advocate? And how relentless should they be when they feel that no one really understands what they're talking about, where it concerns their child?
get with other parents. That's the bottom line. Um, we have a range of experiences from very, very good to very, very bad in dealing with government programs, in dealing with the medical community, the school system in particular. Those tend often to be more towards the bad end. But having other parents to share things with, I guarantee you're not the first. Whoever you may be that's watching this, you're not the first, and you won't be the last. When you are early in your process, there are people who have gone before. My wife and I are now those. We try every chance we get to pay it forward. You'll get there too. But parents understand other parents in a way that professionals just don't, because they give your kid back. They go home at night. Well, yes, we go home at night too, and our kids are with us. And even if they're not physically with us, they're in our minds 24/7. So it's walking the walk. A burden shared is a burden halved. And there really is help from the people who have done things before. We've got a Facebook group for the Autism Coalition. There's well over 4,000 parents in there, and it's morphed into the most wonderful thing. It was originally about political action, but it's become a support group, and parents will post questions in there. And my first inclination is, if I can, I'll offer some bit of knowledge or nugget of experience or just moral support. And I scroll down and I see that 23 other people have already done that. But it's that kind of advice when you just know that the other person understands. They may never have met you. You look nothing like your profile picture, but they get it. And that's huge. That's as important as any bit of therapy. And when you really do meet a big challenge, we really do help one another out. I've gone to meetings with people. We have a bunch of parents that do this, that just will help you out. You don't go alone to a meeting, because you get caught up in it. You get emotional. Have somebody with you who's objective, just to take notes, but just that there's a friendly face in the room. We do that for one another, but get with other parents. It gets way easier after that.
Bruce, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.